Hello and welcome to my weekly video blog, and today on A.Vogel Talks Menopause I'm going to be telling you about 7 fatty foods that you should be eating in the menopause. Now if you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and hit the bell icon to make sure that you're notified of all my new videos each week. For those of you who were watching last week, you would have heard me talk about why snacks are so important and why having fat in your diet is also really important as well. So I thought this week I would go into the fats in a little bit more detail. It's such a confusing subject, and even I get confused at times, but I thought I would go through things a little bit more, and hopefully that will give you a better idea of what you should be aiming for and what you should be avoiding. Now, there are what's called good and bad fats. Bad fats are a lot of saturated fats from things like your red meats, cheeses, dairy products. You've got trans fats and you've got hydrogenated fats, which are more of the man-made fats like margarines. We've got good fats, which are unsaturated fats, monosaturated fats and polysaturated fats. So, you know, we get confused already about this. But why are good fats really important for you in the menopause? There's a number of reasons. You need fat for brain function. So all of you out there that are getting the foggy brain and the forgetfulness, some of it might be due just to having a bit of a low-fat diet. You need fats to keep your joints lubricated. It's like putting oil in your car. It's keeping all the mechanisms going. So fats are really important for good joint health. You need it for your skin. Our skin changes such a lot during the menopause that having good healthy fats can keep your skin with that lovely sort of glowy look. Believe it or not, good fats will help to control your weight. So this is a really good one to remember. And the other thing, here we are in the perimenopause and the menopause. You're at the point where you need all the hormones you can get. And we need to have a certain amount of fat in our diet in order to produce hormones. What I have found really interesting, looking at lots of research over the last few years, is that for those of you who are going through the perimenopause and the menopause just now, you are the ladies who have been brought up being told that fat is bad, fat is the enemy. So a lot of you are reaching the perimenopause and the menopause having had a low-fat diet practically your whole life, and this is now possibly impacting on your hormonal health as you go through the menopause. So how much fat do you need? I thought I would check the internet, and I spent the most frustrating hour of my life because practically every single website had different figures on it, and I'm just thinking, how do we know what's correct when there's all this different information out there? So what I thought I would do is I asked Emma, our own nutritionist, what her take on good fats and how much you should have in your diet. So this is what she basically told me. The dietary reference intake, which is the DRI, for fats in adults is between 20 and 30% of your total daily calorie intake. So that's approximately 45 to 75 grams per day for the average female who's on a 2,000 calories a day diet. She said that personally she would recommend aiming for the upper end of the scale, as generally, and this is really important, a lower fat content of food means more carbs and sugar instead. Now there are only 3 main macronutrient food groups, so that's your fats, your carbohydrates and your protein. And we're less likely to add in a good quality protein to make up for the low fat options. So all these packaged foods that a lot of people are eating that are labeled low fat tend to be much higher in sugar. So these are not really good foods to be adding into your diet. She also says don't get too hung up on the figure. Don't get paranoid about how much fat you're eating or not eating in your diet. Fats are satiating, so that means that fats will fill you up quicker. They will help you to decrease your appetite. So if we practice good eating habits, such as eating slower, we should find that we will feel satisfied sooner rather than later, which means that we'll eat less, and this is one of the reasons why good fats can help with weight control. So what are the 7 fatty foods that you should be aiming for in your diet? The first one is eggs. Eggs are great. They're a whole protein. They provide fats, vitamins and minerals as well. So they're a really super food. I aim for about 4 or 5 a week, sometimes as part of a main meal and sometimes just as a good snack, and that was one of them I mentioned last week. There was also a study done showing that people who had introduced eggs for their breakfast instead of these high sugar breakfast cereals, it found that they ate less calories during the day just because they had a good protein breakfast. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Eggs also contain lecithin, and lecithin helps to emulsify fats. So this is a great addition to your weekly diet. We're looking at fatty fish, that's your salmon, your sardines, your mackerel, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Tinned tuna doesn't count because they take all the fish oils out the tuna and either replace them with things like sunflower oil or water or things like that. So if you want to have tuna as a fatty fish in your diet, then it needs to really be the fresh. For those of you who are vegetarian or vegan, you could replace the fatty fish with foods like tofu. That's quite a nice swap. You need your good fat, so that would be things like your coconut oil. I know this is a saturated fat, but research seems to show that coconut oil is a good one, so it can really help to be part of a healthy diet. And you've got things like your extra virgin olive oil as well, so these should be added into your daily diet. Nuts are great. They're full of protein, they're full of fat, they've got fibre in them, they've got magnesium in them. They're a super duper food and great for snacks as well. If you're not too keen on chomping whole nuts, then you've got these lovely nut butters. Just watch that they're organic, and just watch that they're not added sugar in them as well. Some peanut butters I know have things like palm oil in them, which is really not good, and also have sugar in them. So just read the label before you buy the nut butters. Number 5 is dark chocolate. I can hear everybody going, hooray! Please don't overeat in this one. Now, this is one of the ones I tend not to eat because, unfortunately, my willpower will not last for 1 square. 1 square of dark chocolate, and it needs to be about 70% at least cocoa content for this to be of any real benefit. 1 small square of dark chocolate is about 60 calories. So this is just one of the nice fats that you want to have as a special treat rather than something to have on a regular basis. However, if you're one of those people that has sort of high fat carbohydrate puddings every day, then swapping a pudding for a little piece of chocolate would probably save you quite a few calories on a daily basis. Look at things like your full fat yogurts. I love Greek yogurt. It's a great snack. It's great to have on fruit as well, and just a small portion is quite low in calories too, as long as you don't overdose it. Just make sure if you're buying full fat yogurts that they don't have fruit or sugar in them as well. You know, it's one of these things, always read the label of things that you're buying, because sometimes you can be really surprised at what's in there which really shouldn't be in there. You can look at seeds. These are another super fat. So you've got your chia seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, flax seeds. These mixes you can get are great. The only thing I would say here is that when you start to grind up seeds, the fats in them go rancid really quickly. So you're better to buy all the seeds whole, and then just have if you've got one of these little coffee grinders, just to grind everything up when you need it, rather than opening packets and keeping them in the fridge. My favourite fatty foods I incorporate all the ones that I've just spoken about on a weekly basis, apart from the chocolate. I prefer avocado. Small piece of avocado on a regular basis is absolutely fabulous. I love olives as well, so if I'm making a salad, they are quite high in calories, so I'll maybe put 3 or 4 olives in the salad just to help that along. Fats to avoid, it's your fatty foods, your processed foods. I really would avoid margarines as well, because they tend to have the hydrogenated fats in them. Junk foods, any kind of fried foods, and things like chips and crisps. All the things we tend to love, unfortunately, are the ones that can be really, really bad for us. So try and keep these foods out of your weekly diet if you can. Just one piece of advice here. If you are under medical guidance for high cholesterol, if you are on any cholesterol lowering medication, then it's really important that you speak to your doctor before you start changing your diet. Try and get some proper advice here as well. If any of you are still confused, I would recommend going to see a practitioner called a nutritional therapist. They can give you really good advice on the types of good fats that you should be putting into your daily diet. Hope that's given you a little bit of a clue. Just realising that not all fats are the enemy, and some of them can really help you going through the menopause. So I look forward to seeing you next week on another edition of A.Vogel Talks Menopause.